okay, season 1 of Demon Slayer, right? Everyone was raving about it. Great episode, whatever, with Rui. That animation, ridiculous, whatever. Season 1 of Demon Slayer, I thought, I was like, okay, this is a good show. This is going to be a popular show. It is a popular show, and it's going to stay that way. But I didn't really think it was like top tier. I thought the story was okay, very straightforward. Characters were good cast of characters, and it was done by a good studio. Come around a Mugen Train, and I'm like, okay, this shit's kind of like, this is better. This is like getting really good. Animation is still getting better and better, crispier and crispier every time I'm watching it. And I watched the movie and I'm like, that was a really, really good movie. I like this. I like this a lot. I liked the movie more than I liked season 1. Okay? So I'm like, okay, this is sick. And then season 2 gets released. Okay, season 2 obviously started off with the Mugen Train kind of redo, just in like an anime season for obviously the people who haven't seen the movie. Now, granted, I think they should have kind of been required to see the movie, but I understand why it was done in that fashion, just because there were inevitably going to be people who haven't seen the film. So, Entertainment District arc starts, and I'm like, okay, cool. We're in a new environment. We have a new Hashira, and it's mainly the environment is what kind of like had me going at first, right? Because I was like, oh, this place is like kind of sick. This is not your typical like. This is a more technologically advanced area, and like a more lively area, and a more fun area. Lots of colors and everything about it. I was like, this is gonna be sick, right? And then you hear the opening for the new season, or the second half of season 2. I'm like, okay, first of all, this is the best opening in the show. I still like with the first season opening, obviously it was overplayed. Like that opening is so overplayed. But when I first heard it, I was like, this is a really, really good anime opening. It's just there's something about season 2 that really gets me jiggy. You know what I'm saying? Like I could sit here and I really jam out to that shit, and it is a very, very good opening. So I'm just gonna start off with that. I'm gonna call it opening 3 because I think the first half of season 2 had a different opening. Opening 3 of Demon Slayer, best opening in the show. Okay, so that's already out of the table, and the visuals for that shit crispy as hell. Okay, but aside from that, season 2 starts off 40-minute episode, and it's just kind of introducing Tengen and shit. And then obviously he had his little criminal moment that everyone was talking about, and I was like, oh damn, this guy's like, he's funny, but what the fuck was that? You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't that big of a deal. And then obviously Tanjiro, Inosuke, Zenitsu help him infiltrate. They are taking on the role of the girls in the different houses. Okay, and it was a lot of comedy, but I think the comedy that was present at the beginning of the season was like, first of all, definitely better than the first season, right? Zenitsu's jokes and like mannerisms were actually hitting. Like they were actually hitting really, really well. And Inosuke has always been pretty funny to me, so I mean, I wasn't really worried about him. He was really hitting it off for me. And then Tanjiro was obviously just like being Tanjiro, kissing ass and like cleaning everything up and being like really good at it because that's just who he is. But Zenitsu's comedy specifically, especially with Tengen, that shit was really, really good. Like there was actually like moments where I was like smiling and laughing and like enjoying the dialogue rather than being annoyed at Zenitsu screaming. And you know what I'm saying? So first of all, I was really, really enjoying that at the beginning. Then obviously shit starts getting serious when they introduce Daki, right? And Zenitsu really stood up to her. I don't remember if he was awake or if he was sleeping when he did it, but either way, he stood up to an upper 6, quotation marks. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, Zenitsu's kind of cold. Like he's really, really flexing out here on Daki. He's like, don't fucking touch her. Like it's that simple. But so he does that. Inosuke figures out. I don't remember exactly what happens, but basically Tanjiro ends up fighting her, right? And at this point, I'm like, okay, this shit's good, right? Why? But then I'm like, why is Tanjiro fighting her by himself? I'm like, what's going on with this? And he's holding off for a minute, and he's really, really not kicking ass, but he is like, he's causing some trouble. And then Tengen is dealing with like her scarf shit because it like kidnapped his wives or whatever. And then Zenitsu and Inosuke are also over there too. So Tanjiro is one-on-one solo dolo. And then out of fucking nowhere, Nezuko just decides to grow up about by 15 years and just absolutely kicks it. It was like kind of fucking ridiculous. Like I was really thrown off by it. And obviously I'm not even trying to talk about it. I'm not going to speak on it. Everyone knows what I'm talking about when it comes to her physical appearance. I could see why people make arguments about it because it's like the same thing with Daki. You know, Daki was fucking like however old, and then now she's like 300 years old, but the physical appearance, I mean, she's still more physically up there. But I'm not even gonna, I'm done talking about it, okay? But that's besides the point. So they have Nezuko looking like this, and she just becomes an absolute threat. She becomes like upper moon level, right? Her healing, regenerative ability is off the fucking charts, and she is literally, she's making a fool of Daki. Like, Daki doesn't even exist anymore. This is just, she's like a kickball to her. She kicks her fucking face in at damn near like Mach 6 speed, and it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever. And then she has Daki out here making these noises like her whole lungs collapsed. It was just so ridiculous to watch. Nezuko literally manhandled this woman with there was no problem at all. And then Daki sliced and diced her body into literally an 8-piece pizza, and Nezuko's blood coagulated and literally stayed physical and held her together like she was fucking Zabimaru, Renji's sword. Like, she had like 7 parts to her. It held together by a single wire. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow. If Nezuko was like this all the time, this show would be over, because they would be at Muzan already. You know what I'm saying? Because she was nuts, and she had like her healing, and her physical strength was nuts, and and I'm not even talking about her blood demon art with the flames, which, keep in mind, also heals poison. What the fuck is that? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, wow, Nezuko is really, really strong. So we get to there. She's kind of going on a rampage. Tanjiro has to stop her or else if she eats this human, they're done. Show's over. If she eats this human right now while she's on this rampage, or like even harms this human lady in the slightest, show is over, because Tanjiro's done, Gyu's done, Urokodake is done, because they already made this pact with the Demon Slayer Corps, whatever. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, there's no way this gets better, because I'm not even thinking of Gyutaro at this point, right? I'm really not. I'm not. Like, I'm looking at this woman and I'm like, why is she so easy to beat? And like, it seems like they're really taking control of the situation, and that they have the upper hand in some way, and then out of nowhere, out of the fucking scarp, out of the depths of the darkness, out of I don't know where, Gyutaro pops up, and then we get a clean shot of Tengen just pulling up on him, double sword action with some lens flares, and I'm like, okay, now we're getting serious. And Gyutaro is constantly, every episode after that, just getting stronger and stronger, becoming more of a problem for them, right? But they start this fight, and the animation with Tengen and his fucking move with the fireworks, it was just so beautiful. That shit was so beautiful. And I'm trying to remember, they take the fight outside, and then they're getting fucking beat. Simple as that. Gyutaro is like, they're kind of trying to jump him, and at the end of the day, he stabs Inosuke in the goddamn chest, and I'm like, okay, that's a hard shot. He's done. I'm thinking Inosuke's done. I'm thinking he's literally not a character in the show anymore. Zenitsu is definitely like boxing with Daki, but Daki kind of opened like a third eye type of thing, so Gyutaro can help her, and she's back in the show strong as ever as well. So he's kind of keeping up with her over there, but to no like avail. Like, there's really no like progress being made. And then we have Tanjiro and Tengen fighting Gyutaro with like the help of his wives throwing like the kunai and shit, but Gyutaro was really manhandling them. So then they like, there's really not much to it, just some nice animation. But then we get to episode 10, season 2, episode 10, and I'm saying episode 10 because I'm not counting Mugen Train. This was the single greatest animated episode I have ever seen, and I know there are shows like Fate and Violet Evergarden and shit like that, but damn it, man, that shit damn near made me cry. Like, it was, oh my gosh, yo. It's just like, there was constant, and keep in mind, right, this season, once the fighting started, aside from like little dialogue, it was constant action, and I loved it so much. But I did not think they could just like keep getting the animation better every time. I thought there was a peak, and there was no fucking peak. It just kept fucking getting better. And the shit that I was seeing on the screen with Tengen and Gyutaro throwing slashes at full fucking speed, lightning speed, screaming back and forth, had me screaming in my chair. I'm sure people have seen my reaction to it. That was genuine, like I didn't even know how to react and respond to the shit because it was just that fucking hype. And I'm like sitting there screaming, and then we have Tanjiro, whose scar transforms when he gets stabbed up his fucking chin. Tanjiro, keep in mind, shouldn't even be moving. Past episode like 4 of the Entertainment District, he shouldn't even have been moving, but he just kept moving. I don't know how. I really don't, and I'm thoroughly impressed, I guess, with his like, I don't fucking know how he kept moving, but he unlocks like his sun breathing scar or whatever the fuck it is. Zenitsu and Inosuke said some shit like he rearranged his organs. Who does that? Okay, what even is that? And then we have Zenitsu taking control and like giving commands, and like he's really shining, like in terms of just like his leadership and dialogue. I really liked Zenitsu, and I'm convinced he wasn't even sleeping. I just think he didn't even want to look at the demons because he would have been scared, so he closed his eyes, and then like his hearing and all of his other senses were just heightened because he's basically blind at that point, you know. So I think, and if that's the case, if he's not sleeping, he's the coldest character in the show. Like, if he was closing his eyes just because he didn't want to look at them, and he was dead ass awake during this whole thing, because it's like, who talks when they're sleeping and gives out commands and like is actually sound, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so aside from that, I think that this season, like that whole episode 10 was nuts. And then episode 11, obviously they showed Gyutaro and Daki's backstory. Great backstory. The season ended well, and I think over time, especially through this season really like was just showing me how much I enjoy Tanjiro as a main character. And like I've said this before, there are all these different characters, like they show like how like far they're willing to go, surpassing their limits, and like how, but Tanjiro morally is just such a nice, genuine dude who, like, you could really see his hard work and you could really see the pain because of how it's animated and depicted to. It's just like you could really see the pain and the suffering that he goes through and his morals, and there's just so much to him. It's just like he is the embodiment of just like a morally good person. And every time he does some shit, like when he's talking to the demons, first season I thought it was cheesy. I really did. I was like, oh my god, okay, he's gonna talk to the demon. But like this season, even though he only did it with Gyutaro and Daki obviously at the end, it was like you really just like gotta love him. You gotta really love him. And just like the way he was interacting with everyone in the Entertainment District, and like the way he stopped Nezuko, and it was just like his hard work and just how determined he is, and just you saw a lot of growth with his character in terms of abilities and powers and what he can do. He unlocked like hybrid breathing where he could use his Hinokami and water at the same time, and then obviously his scar transformation shit. And like Zenitsu and Inosuke obviously had to have just gotten stronger by default because they weren't beating this person at the beginning of the season. And then Tengen, who is now retired because he has no eye and arm, he showed that he's just a great character, great Hashira. There were times I thought he was done. I was like, there's no way they could kill him off. And also the fact that Obanai pulled up at the end, dude's 20,000 fucking minutes late. Like, what are you doing? But no, I think this season overall, my final thoughts on it, and I really don't want to, 10 out of 10. Like, and I don't throw out 10s. You know, I'll be picky with it, like 9.5. I'll be like, oh, 9.5, 9.3. But no, this season, genuinely, from the start of the Entertainment District arc to the end, I could not see a problem. I could not see a problem with it. And I really like don't want to overhype Demon Slayer, but I have nothing against the show. And it's just like the hype definitely was deserved for this season. Last season, I think it was slightly overhyped, but this season, this was a 10 out of 10 season. I really don't have any complaints except for the fact that Inosuke rearranged his organs. Like, I don't know how that works. But other than that, there is no complaints from me at all. Like, and I know there are like people who are going to be picky about it, but me, I enjoyed every single episode. I enjoyed the downtime when they just had dialogue. I enjoyed the fights. I enjoyed the best animated episode I've ever seen, and I enjoyed the finale. I enjoyed every part of it. There was not one point that had me like not liking it. The opening to the show was great, the best opening in the show. And yeah, that's really it. That's my final thoughts on season 2 of Demon Slayer. I mean, what the fuck, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, wow. That's all I really got to say about that one. Wow. And I can't wait for season 3. But yeah, that's really it.